All right, now at the bottom of page 153, you are going to practice finding examples of the playwrights using dialogue for those three purposes. So at the bottom, you see a practice chart, and it says, review the Diary of Anne Frank, Act 1. For each item in the chart, identify passages of dialogue that serve that purpose. Explain each choice. So I am going to give you some advice. You need to go back and look at your close reads. Your close reads were spots that pointed out how dialogue was being used. So if you go back over your close reads, it's going to help you find these. So, for example, I found a close read that my students in fourth period had kind of an interesting discussion about. So on page 120, this particular close read talks about how Mrs. Van Dan's words and actions show what kind of person she is, like her personality. So this is a good example of the first purpose of dialogue, to build characters. So that's over here. So the way that I would do this is I would put the paragraph numbers under examples from Act 1, and then I would put what those paragraph numbers show in the explanation. So here it starts about paragraph 120, and this is in scene 3, and it's a conversation involving mostly Anne and Mrs. Van Dan about Mrs. Van Dan's dating life. Partway through, she talks about having nice legs and shows them to Mr. Frank, and then her husband and her son get embarrassed. So the way I would write this would be, here I would say scene 3, paragraphs 123 to 133. Now see, that came directly from the close read. And then I would write what it shows. This dialogue shows that Mrs. Van Dan, or Don, is flirtatious or flirty because she is showing her legs to Mr. Frank and talking about all of her previous romantic relationships. Now, you could write a lot of different things, but that's kind of what we're looking for. Now, notice explanation means you're going to have a because in there. You're not going to just tell us what it shows, but you're going to tell us why it shows that. We'll just keep that up there. So you'll also look for an example that sets the mood. Think about times when the characters were scared. That might be a good close read to look for. You're going to find some dialogue that shows conflict. Some examples that you could look for would be when the dentist arrives and the conflicts between the Franks and the Van Dans. It could be when the thief is discovered and the argument about whether the thief is going to go to the Green Police. So that's how you do that chart. And yes, we will be checking the chart, and yes, it is a grade. So work on this, and we'll see how you do. Thanks.